Hey y'all, I want to welcome you to a new episode of Crown and Convos, where every jewel you receive here gets you one step closer to receiving your crown from God. Now y'all, these jewels are not intended for you to just take and save them in your pocket for a rainy day. What you want to do is take them back to God and start your own conversation with Him, where He will provide you with insight, instruction, and increase. I am your host, Aaliyah, and I'm so happy you're joining me today. So you guys, we are still in the series of Why Does God Make Us Wait? But if you can see by the title, the Interim, Healing, There is Pain in Your Purpose. That is a very intentional title. So first off, last episode we talked about emotional intelligence. And so we learned that emotional intelligence is learning how to navigate through your emotions, learning how to identify them, become self-aware, but also learning how to understand the emotions of someone else. And so I don't know if y'all paid really close attention to that episode, but there was some self-discovery and some self-awareness going on within that episode. Like, God was ministering to me as I was speaking. Like, me saying self-discovery, or me learning that I was allowing the emotion of fear to lead me in certain interactions. That was all in that moment type thing. That was not something that was studied before then or that was learned before then. So, God has had me in this place of healing, and I'm open to it, which is new because usually when I learn something new, I'm very much ready to go to the next level, or I feel like I'm ready to go to the next level. So like, as God was ministering that stuff to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm excited now. I can take what I've learned and go utilize it in the next interaction that I have with someone. And God is like, no, like right now I need you to sit. I don't need you to be so much in a rush to go and interact with people. I need you to sit, because this is where your healing takes place. And so from the title, There is Pain in Your Purpose, that's not an accident. I know we usually hear there is purpose in your pain, meaning there is a reason for you going through whatever it is that you're going through. But last night, God ministered while I was crying. He ministered, there is pain in your purpose. And I didn't write it down then, but last night when I went to go make myself some tea, I was like, okay, I'm gonna title the episode Healing, There's Purpose in Your Pain. And I drank a sip of tea and I was like, nah, that don't sound right. And I said, there's pain in your purpose. And I'm like, okay, that's it. But that sounds different from what I've heard before. So I started asking God to minister, like, what was that switch about? And what he was saying is, yeah, we know that there is purpose in your pain, but also when you enter into your purpose, each purpose that you have, each level that God brings you up and promotes you, there is going to be pain in there, because there is going to be a layer of skin. There's going to be a layer of you that has to be shed in order for you to be comfortable in that season, in that purpose, whatever it may be. So Joshua chapter 5, verse 2, it says, at that time the Lord told Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the second generation of Israelites. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the entire male population of Israel at Gibeath Haaraloth. Joshua had to circumcise them because all the men who were old enough to fight in battle when they left Egypt had died in the wilderness. Those who left Egypt had all been circumcised, but none of those born after the Exodus during the years in the wilderness had been circumcised. The Israelites had traveled in the wilderness for 40 years until all the men who were old enough to fight in battle when they left Egypt had died, for they had disobeyed the Lord, and the Lord vowed he would not let them enter the land he had sworn to give them, a land flowing with milk and honey. So Joshua circumcised their sons, those who had grown up to take their father's places, for they had not been circumcised on the way to the promised land. Verse 8, after all the males had been circumcised, they rested in the camp until they healed. Right? So they could not go into the promised land until they were circumcised. You cannot go into your purpose without shedding that other layer of who you once were, which is who God no longer wants you to be, in order for you to maintain your position in your purpose. So when you think about it like that, every level that you go up, there's a notch of you. There's a person within you that cannot go. Right? Does that make sense? There's a person within you. There are some old ways that have to be shed, some old mannerisms, some old ways of thinking that have to be shed before you can be comfortable in your purpose. So that's what he's saying. there is going to be pain in your purpose. There is going to be pain in the things that he takes you into. You are going to hurt because there's a version of you that he needs to come out of you in order for you to be comfortable in that purpose. And it doesn't mean that you won't be in your purpose and still be an old version of you. Like, I'm in my purpose right now with my book, with my podcast, and even me preaching the good news and speaking to people. But also, since God has had me speaking more about my marriage and stuff like that, that's to come, it's kind of like, okay, I'm taking you somewhere, right? I'm giving you that, but there is a level of you right now that cannot reach that purpose with you. And we discovered in the last episode what the version of me is that he is talking about. So I'm like, okay, we got it. Like, it's all coming together. So now is the time for me to sit and heal. And what I'm thinking in that is new wineskins and old wineskins. So in Luke chapter 5, verse 36, it says, "Then Jesus gave them this illustration. No one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment and uses it to patch an old garment. For then the new garment would be ruined, and the new patch wouldn't even match the old garment. And no one puts new wineskin into old wineskins. For the new wine will burst the wineskins, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. New wine must be stored in new wineskins." New wine must be stored in new wineskins. So again, that level that God is trying to take you to, there is a version of you that cannot go with you. The anointing of God that is on this new version of you, it does not fit in the skins of the old version of you, right? And so navigating through that means after you learn something, after you have self-discovered something, there is a moment where you might just find yourself in isolation, because this is where God can heal you. Usually God cannot heal you around other people because you're going to continue being triggered and your wound is not going to heal properly. And last night when I was in the shower, God dropped in my spirit the process of wound healing. What is the process of when you get a cut or when you go through surgery, right? So he brought me to this website, and I'm just going to read it. How wounds heal. Most of us take wound healing for granted. If you get a small cut, you may clean and let it open to the air or cover it with a bandage and move on with your life. Yet, under that bandage or in the open air, the body orchestrates a complex cascade of events designed to heal wounds big and small. Step 1, stopping the bleeding, hemostasis. When your skin is cut, scraped, or punctured, you usually start to bleed. Within minutes or even seconds, blood cells start to clump together and clot, protecting the wound and preventing further blood loss. These clots, which turn into scabs as they dry, are created by a type of blood cell called a platelet. The clot also contains a protein called fibrin, which forms a net to hold the clot in place. Step 2 is inflammation. Once the wound is closed with a clot, the blood cells can open a bit to allow fresh nutrients and oxygen into the wound for healing. Blood-borne oxygen is needed for healing. The right balance of oxygen is also important. Too much or too little and the wound won't heal correctly. Another type of blood cell, a white blood cell called a macrophage, takes on the role of wound protector. This cell fights infection and oversees the repair process. You might see some clear fluid on or around the cut at this time. That is helping clean out the wound. Macrophages also make chemical messengers called growth factors, which help repair the wound. Step 3 is growth and rebuilding. Blood cells, including oxygen-rich red blood cells, arrive to help build new tissue. Chemical signals tell the cells to create collagen. It serves as a type of scaffolding. Occasionally, you see the result of this process as a scar that starts out red and eventually dulls. Step 4, strengthening. Over time, the new tissue gets stronger. You might notice stretching, itching, and even puckering of the wound as that happens. The wound gains strength quickly over the first 6 weeks of healing. In about 3 months, the wound is 80% as strong in its repair as it was before the injury. But the wound area will never reach 100% of its original strength. Depending on the size and the severity of the wound, the entire healing process might take up to a couple of years to complete. So let me just tell y'all what God gave to me for each step. For the step, so let's just start from the very beginning. When we first get cut, before the wound healing starts, what happens? We get cut, we get stabbed, we get punctured, whatever the case may be. We are now exposed, right? So let's look at it in the sense of being triggered. We are now exposed. We are bleeding over everything, and the first step is to stop the bleeding. How do we usually stop the bleeding? And let's just say the bleeding is just our emotional response to the trigger, our emotional response to being hurt, or our emotional response for perceiving that pain is on the way, right? Are you like me, who I don't even allow myself to be hurt? I'm finna act before you can hurt me. I go into fight or flight mode, meaning I'm gonna either fight, we're gonna have an argument, I'm gonna fight whatever is happening, or I'm going to run. That's my flight response. That's how I usually stop the bleeding. That's how I stop my emotional response. That's how I stop myself from getting hurt. It's not the right way. But this is what has worked for me. And unfortunately, that is what has created the cycle of me feeling like I need to disappear anytime something is happening that I don't like. It has prevented me from staying in long-term situations because you just had a bad moment, but for me, I'm thinking this is now about to become a cycle, so I got to get gone. So let's just talk about the situation that was going on with my best friend. When I felt like I was potentially putting myself in a bad situation, I told him that we just needed to not talk right now. That wasn't right. God told me from the beginning that that wasn't right, but I felt like I needed to do that because I have to protect myself. So I ran from the situation. And again, this is what keeps us in this cycle. So this is probably one of the things that has kept me and my best friend from pursuing a romantic relationship, because I kind of show myself as somebody who was flighty. Like, let's just be real about the situation. Anytime we have an argument, I feel the need to disappear. I feel the need to get gone. With this being said, in order to stop the bleeding, God wants us to sit in it. So when you are cut and you start to bleed, it says within minutes or even seconds, blood cells start to clump together and clot, protecting the wound and preventing further blood loss. So your body already works together to stop the bleeding. It's literally not something that you have to do. Or even like if you go to the doctors and you get a shot done and you know, the nurses, they press the little gauze pad on it to stop it. They're encouraging the blood to begin to clot, right? So if you handle it this way versus trying to run away from the situation, versus trying to fight against the situation, but if you just sit still, things will start to happen as they're supposed to. Because what God is doing in the fact that you just got triggered, he is trying to bring that stuff up to the surface so you can be healed from it, so he can remove it. Wound cleaning. He's trying to heal you, but you have to sit still long enough for him to do it. Sometimes, most of us, we just be ready to move and disappear. God needs you to sit still so that he can begin his process. The blood clot forming, that's just the first step. And like I said before in other episodes, our healing is so much deeper than whatever just triggered us. My friend triggered me. Yeah, but this is something within myself, like something stemming from my childhood, something stemming from how I view myself, or something stemming from, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not the surface level. It's not what he just did that got me like that. It's my fear of something that has already happened in my past starting to happen again. And God is wanting to take me deeper so that he can remove that fear, so that I can allow him to love on me through other people, so that I can allow God to show me who he is through another person. This is what he's trying to do. And this is why he needs to heal me from something that continues to be a cycle because I keep going into fight or flight response. So now he has me in a season where I'm sitting still and I'm going through this healing. Yesterday, I cried off and on all day. Not because I'm sad or I'm mad about anything, but just because I promised God that I would be in full surrender mode. And that literally means just sitting still. That literally means allowing God to stop the bleeding so that he can go deeper. The next step is inflammation, which is your body's response in trying to fight infection. So it says once the wound is closed with a clot, the blood vessels can open a bit to allow fresh nutrients and oxygen into the wound for healing. Fresh nutrients, that's God's truth. That's God's love. That's God revealing who you are to you so that anything that goes against that can be removed, can be rebuked, can be rejected. So if God says that I'm a beautiful person, anything that is the opposite or does not support that has to go. So if anybody in my childhood said, oh, you not ugly, you ugly and you not this, and oh, you will never be that, that has to go because God just revealed to me a truth. God just provided me with a fresh nutrient, something new, his truth. In inflammation, your blood vessels are exposed. Let's take that as your heart, right? And this is why I said it is deeper. It is deeper than just a cut on your arm. It's so much deeper within a wound. So take your blood vessels that have now been opened and exposed, take that as your heart. Triggers are deeper than the surface. So if you don't allow the clot to form, aka God to cover you in this moment, then you can't get the deeper healing which takes place in your heart. When God exposes your heart to you, he is digging up all the trauma, every hurt and pain you have ever experienced because he wants to remove it. And this is painful and hurtful. So yes, God is about to do some wound healing. And yes, it is a hurtful process because you are now about to be re-exposed to things that hurt you before, that you have buried deep in your heart, that you have hidden out of sight, out of mind. God is about to re-expose you to those things because he has to reveal to you the truth of who you are. He has to reveal to you the truth about this incident. This was not, whoever said this to you, they did not tell you the truth. Whoever did this to you, they were not right. Whoever said you was never going to be nothing, they told a lie. You are going to be everything. You are going to be this. You are going to be that. God is revealing certain truths to us in this inflammation process. In this process where he has exposed your heart to you. Yes, it is a very vulnerable process. I almost hate it. I almost hate having to relive certain things and having to learn that this is where I was coming from. Like, it really hurt me after that episode where I realized that I was allowing fear to guide me in how I interacted with somebody that I know would never hurt me. That I would literally be scared if he had a bad day. I literally had no clue. I've been friends with this man for 5 years. So I did not know that I had become that fearful, that I had become that hyper vigilant in ensuring that I did not re-enter an abusive relationship, that I was allowing fear to lead me, and that I couldn't even allow him to be a human being. Meaning there are moments where he would be a little passionate. There are moments where he could be a little frustrated. And it's not for me to run. It's not for me to feel like, oh no, in 2 years you might backhand me, so I can't be here for this. I literally had no clue that that's what my thought process was when interacting with him. So when I say June was a bad month, I felt like I couldn't stay around for it. Because we had a whole 30 days of me feeling like you were being a butthole towards me. Am I supposed to live the next 30 years like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what my mind was doing, and I literally had no clue. So when God exposed that to me, it's kind of like he has to reveal the truth to me. I wouldn't put you in an abusive relationship. This is not even his character. And if it was his character, can you not trust me as in God? Can you not trust me to remove you out of this situation? You think I need you to remove yourself? You don't think I have it in me to tell you, all right, daughter, I need you to get away. I need you to remove yourself from this situation. God has told me many times, he doesn't need me to protect myself. He got me. I'm his daughter. So when there's harm, he will protect me. He doesn't need me to protect myself because I'm not doing it in the way that I'm supposed to. When he says guard my heart, that's completely different from me shutting myself off and just not being vulnerable, because when I'm not vulnerable, I'm not allowing the love of God to flow through me, because I have now become too guarded. I have now removed myself from a situation that God has placed me in. I have removed myself from an environment that God wants me to be in. So he's like, I don't need you to protect yourself because you're not doing it right. I will protect you. You just listen when I tell you to move. If I tell you to get out of there and I tell you to remove yourself from a person or an environment, that's when you move. But until then, I need you to sit here. So this is what I'm learning in my healing process. That it's okay for me to stay and be committed to a process and devoted to a process and to see it through without feeling like I always have to leave. Without feeling like I always need to disappear. And even in this process of healing, God is showing me how to be committed to something. Because I'm now committed to the process of healing. So yeah, in the past, I might be in a rush to get back to my best friend and try to make things right with him and just move on to the next level. But I'm like, no, because I don't want to face this again in the next 3 years. This has been a cycle for us. I don't want to go through this cycle no more. I don't want to keep walking away from something that I know God has told me was for me. Not only am I hurting myself, I'm hurting him. Right? So I don't want to keep doing that. So I'm going to sit in this process for however long it takes. Whether he's there or not, I'm going to sit in this process and I'm going to allow God to clean my wound. I'm going to allow God to clean my heart. Creating me a new heart, O Lord. Renew a loyal spirit within me. Psalms 51:10. God is looking to give me a new heart right now. I need to sit still so I can receive it. I need to sit still so God can remove everything that's in my heart that's not supposed to be there. Abuse is not supposed to be there. Hate is not supposed to be there. Why? Because God dwells within my heart, and God is love, and love is God. Love is the only thing that's supposed to be in my heart, because this is where God resides within me. There's no room for anything else. Just God and love and God, and the desires that God places in my heart. There's no room for nothing else. So God is giving me this process. He's giving me this time to heal. So that was inflammation. The third step is growth and rebuilding. And in growth and rebuilding, it says blood cells, including oxygen-rich red blood cells, arrive to help build new tissue. Chemical signals tell the cells to create collagen. So in this, it's like God is saying you are building on good ground now. You have a good foundation, because at this point, God has created a new heart within you. He has given you a new heart. Ezekiel chapter 36:26. God has taken your stony heart and he has given you a heart of flesh. Meaning God has taken your hardened heart and he has given you one that is soft, that is moldable. He's giving you something that he can live within. So now you know that you are building from the ground up on good ground. You are building up on the foundation of God. You are building up on the foundation of all of God's truths. So with God being your foundation and God having revealed who you are, you can now move forward in the direction that God has already had laid out for you. You can now be in complete alignment of God's will for your life because you have nothing coming against that. God has given you new eyes to see everything. God has given you a new heart to feel everything. God has even given you a new mind. And look, Romans 12:1-2. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Right there. You are now building up on new ground. God has now revealed his promise to you. He has now revealed his truth to you. So you can now move according to that plan, not the plan of the teacher who told you you were dumb and you will never excel. Not of your abusive parents who told you was never going to be nothing because they was never nothing. Not from that ex-boyfriend or the ex-girlfriend who were narcissistic and just blamed you for everything that went wrong in a relationship, made you feel like you could do nothing right. Not these people. These people cannot give you your identity. Only God can give you your identity, because only God knows who you truly are. Only God knows who he created you to be. Anything inside your heart that is not of God cannot be there. And it makes me think about just me growing up. Y'all, I used to be so mean. I used to be so hateful. I'm a very smiley and loving and laughing person. I was not like that growing up, because so much had been done to me within my childhood that this nice person that y'all see, I wouldn't dream about being nice back then. God had to come in and remove all of the stuff that I felt about myself, that other people made me feel about myself, that other people told me about myself. God had to come in and clean me. God had to come in and clean my heart and expose me to what was true. And it was a really tough process. This is what I experienced in 2021, 22, when my best friend created the space for me to be a woman. I was not no girly. I was very hyper masculine. I wasn't out here talking to men all sweetly and stuff. I was out here calling men the B word. I was out here being aggressive with men. I was out here, I've fought men before. Like, there was nothing feminine about me. I was challenging. I was blunt. I had no respect for nobody. When my best friend created the space for me to be a woman, because he was a man and there was no way, he didn't allow me to be who I was. I couldn't talk to him all type of ways. I couldn't be all type of ways with him, because the man that he is would not allow it. Me interacting with him is what got me into position for God to do the healing. Because I would question, like, why do I have to be nice to you? You're not my man. I would question why, and I struggle with that. Why do I have to be so nice to him? I'll be nice to my man. I don't have to be nice to him. And this is what God was trying to get to me. God was trying to reveal to me who I really was. I remember I was on the floor crying to God, and I told him I felt like I was having an identity crisis. And he said, "You're not. I'm trying to give you a new identity and you keep fighting it. I'm trying to give you a new way of living and you keep fighting it. I'm trying to show you that there is something in life outside of pain and hurt and depression and anger. I'm trying to give you that, and you are fighting it because this is what you're used to. You don't want to heal. You have a fight or flight response. You either want to fight it out or you want to run. I'm telling you to sit still and let me give you this new identity." This is the process that I was going through in 2022. So I say all that to say, like, the healing process is not an easy thing. And I see why so many people like to run from it. I see why people have the fight or flight response. I see why people like to bury their problems deep in their heart and move on. I see why people like to cope with drugs or cope with sex or cope with gambling. Like, I see it, because that healing process, y'all, there's even now, and I'm talking about, I'm a more healed version than I was in 2021 and 2022. But I sat all day crying yesterday. I would watch TV, I'll be okay, then I'll just start crying. I'll go and clean up around the kitchen, then I just start crying. I had no clue, and all I would do is I would go in my closet, sit on the floor, take my Bible, and I would just cry it out. There's a mourning that you feel when you experience your healing time. You mourn that previous version of yourself, or you mourn the discomfort that you're feeling because you have now surrendered yourself to God and allowed God to heal you. So when I'm telling God that I'm going to surrender to him, I'm telling him I'm going to sit still and let you do what you're going to do. which means I'm gonna sit still and let you expose me to me, and let you tell me the truths that are hidden. Let you reveal your truths to me. And even still, that is a hurtful thing. Even me being who I am now, being a more healed virgin, every level of healing that I go through, it is hard. But God said that there is pain in your purpose. You are going to feel that pain. When you get into that purpose, you are going to feel your pain because God is telling you there are certain things that you need to let go of. And I'm reminded of Jonah in chapter 1. God gave this to me a couple days ago when I was asking him about something with my best friend and how I should deal with him moving forward when it comes to certain things. But in Jonah chapter 1 verse 4, it says, "But the Lord hurled a powerful wind over the sea, causing a violent storm that threatened to break the ship apart. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods for help and threw the cargo overboard to lighten the ship." In this, God is saying, be ready to throw that cargo over the ship so that it doesn't break, so that you don't break, so that your heart doesn't break. Be ready to let go of that stuff. Trials are going to come. Things are going to happen. My best friend, being who he is, he can be so aggravating sometimes. For the rest of my life, I know I'm going to be mad at him about something. I know he's going to aggravate me. I know I might even want to run. But what God is saying in this message is when those violent storms come, he needs you to be willing and he needs you to be prepared for them. And you prepare for them by already having lightened your load before that violent storm comes. To already have gone through your season of healing, so that when you are confronted with something, you got God's truths to lay out to you, or you got God's truths to lay out in battle. Storms are going to come. Things are going to happen. People are going to disappoint you and make you mad. But if you sit still long enough for God to remove that stuff out of your heart, you won't be triggered. And if you are triggered, guess what you got? You got God's truths to fall back on. Oh, I feel this, but God already revealed this to me, so it can't be this. It has to be this. God's word is what's true. This pain of my past is not true. This pain of my past does not identify me, or it does not have a label on me. It does not hold me bondage. God has already delivered me from that. Right? So God is saying that these things are going to happen. You can almost look for moments that you're going to be mad. You can almost look for moments that you're going to be hurt. But if you sit still in your healing process and you allow God to clean you out, to give you that new heart of flesh, you will fight differently when the battles come. You will fight differently when the storms come. The last one is strengthening. So the last step to wound cleaning is strengthening. Over time, the new tissue gets stronger. Meaning, over time, if you continue practicing, if you continue saying the truths of God to yourself, if you continue allowing God to heal you, you will be prepared for the next time a battle comes. You will be prepared for the next time somebody hurts you or angers you or disappoints you in any way. You will be prepared for that. You know, like I said, in this process, it's difficult, it's hard, but I'm so appreciative of God wanting so much for me that he has taken the time out of his busy day to sit with me every day, all day, while I just cry out to him. That he's there and he's listening and he's comforting me and he's giving me peace and he's healing me. That is the most important thing. God is healing me in this process. And only a 20 times better version of me is going to come out of this. A version of me who knows how to accept love. A version of me who knows how to handle conflict. A version of me who does not feel the need to run. A version of me who knows how to show people that she can be committed to stand. That she doesn't feel the need to disappear every time a conflict arises. This is what is coming out of this process. This is what I have to look forward to at the end of this. At the end of this season that God has me sitting in. So I'm appreciative of his grace and his mercy. And I'm appreciative of his due diligence in completing his work. God said he is going to complete his work. God doesn't start something that he doesn't intend to finish. And I need to be that same way about myself, about my healing. I need to be ready to complete this round of healing so that I don't have to be in this same cycle, so that I don't run when I feel triggered, so that the next time my best friend makes me mad, I can look at him like, you know what, you just got on my nerves, but I love you, so I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to continue being a person who is triggered by little things when I know God's truths. And that's all God is saying to you. And this is important because in order for you to handle your relationships in a healthy way, you need to sit still. So that's why I called this episode The Interim. Because I just learned emotional intelligence about myself last week. I'm ready to talk about emotional intelligence with somebody else next week. But this week is about me. So that I know how to handle myself and so that I know how to handle other people. This week is about me and my healing. And my getting myself together. And this is what God is encouraging everybody to go through. When you are triggered, don't run. Don't fight it. Don't try to bury it. Take it to him so he can expose you to yourself and give you his truth. So that he can reveal who you are so you can begin walking in that way. That's all he's saying. So, you guys, I hope this episode was helpful to you. I was actually kind of excited about it because as God continues having me share things about this marriage journey, it's kind of like I can share to y'all some things that I'm going through right now. Right? Like I said, I was crying all day yesterday. Me and my best friend have not really talked. And it's even in that, God is saying something because he texted me yesterday. It never came through on my phone. It came through on my MacBook when I turned my MacBook on at 10 something last night. And I only turned my MacBook on so that I can type up this episode. So had I not turned on my laptop to type up this episode, mind you, I got 2 phones. I don't know why I felt led to get on my laptop when I could type this up in the notes app on my phone. And I got on and I saw that he had texted me. And even then I asked God, why, how come you didn't, because I know that had to be something. There had to be a reason for that. And even then, God was saying, because I want you to sit still. I don't want you to be so focused on responding to him, or I don't want you to be so focused on him. I need you to be focused on you right now. I need you to be focused on your healing. So even that was just amazing. He's taking this serious because he knew where my heart was at and he knew why I felt the way that I felt. And he's telling me, daughter, I don't like that. I don't like that you feel like I will put you in an abusive relationship. I don't like that you feel like if he has a bad moment that it's just setting you up for failure, because I, as in God, I wouldn't do that to you. So I need you to reflect on why you feel this way. And I need you to reflect on my truths so that moving forward, you know how to fight this when it comes. I'm so appreciative of his due diligence with that. He could have left me be. It's so many other important things that God can be focusing on right now. But he decided to be with me all day, every day as I cried yesterday. I'm just super appreciative of it. So I told him that I really wanted to share this with y'all so that it can help you. I'm hoping it helps somebody, even just one person. If one person is willing to sit in their pain and their hurt because of something that I said, then I'm grateful for that. So you guys, thank you for tuning in on this episode. I will see you on the next episode. Peace, love, and blessings to you all.